How's it going, everybody? We're here with Silvia, and it's Halloween, October. Today is going to be a special podcast for us and you guys. Of course, I have Ariana Ortega right next to me.
Hey, everyone.
If you could just give like a little brief bio as far as like what you do for work and maybe how we met too. Maybe like as far as like how we got contacted with you.
Sure. Hi, everybody. So I met you through work at Keller Williams. I'm a realtor, and I'm in my first year in the business. And yeah, that's how, you were working your thing, doing your thing, and that's how we bumped into each other and we got the chance to meet.
Yeah. And as far as like what it is that you do besides real estate, because you're a realtor, correct?
Yes.
And then you're also
the school administrator for George Perez, who is the owner of Smart Move Real Estate Academy. And what we do is we help guide people through the process of obtaining their real estate license. So once they finish their program with us, then they're able to take the state exam and get their realtor license.
Yeah, and as far as like I remember, I do briefly remember you telling me something about you being into like cars, like lowriders and all that. Yeah. I think that's kind of how the conversation started between me and you.
Yes. So I am in a car club, Techniques Car Club, the East LA chapter, and I have a lowrider. I have a '95 Lincoln Town car, which I've named Afterlife.
Oh wow, I like that name.
Yeah.
Is it pink?
It's black with Dodger blue on it and silver leafing.
I do. I remember seeing it at the car show. I just don't have it pictured in my head right now. I remember it was close to George's car, I believe. Yes. Like right next to it, or was it like on the side?
It was across the aisle, so we were like almost like right next to each other, but just across the aisle.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. All right, so the reason for your guest spot as far as like for this month is because you also mentioned as far as like what you also do besides real estate coordinator. What was that again?
School administrator.
School administrator, and of course enthusiast when it comes to lowriding. And then I remember when we were first getting the podcast started, you had mentioned something that you wanted to do your own podcast because you were letting me know about your encounters when it comes to the, I would say like the
paranormal.
Yeah, the paranormal, exactly. And this was, I'm going to say last year that you had mentioned it, or if not the beginning of this year. And when when October was coming up, I was telling her like, hey, we should do something Halloween themed, but we didn't really know what. And then your name just popped into my head. I'm like, I remember this lady. She was telling me this. And then, of course, I was trying to reach out to you, but right now the office is going through construction. So it was really hard for me to actually bump into you. Because you were, I think, I had asked George for if you were going to come into the office, but I think at the time they were still doing the flooring or something.
Yes.
Where your office is at. So he was telling me that you were working from home.
Yes, I wasn't even supposed to be in the office the day that I happened to walk in and you saw me.
Yeah.
And whammy, it just
exactly. Yeah. So of course we want to hear what it is that, that you do when it comes to any paranormal activity. How'd you get into it? Is it something that you were born with? Is it something that got interested in and you just developed? We kind of want to get the general census, and then from there we could kind of get into like if there's any stories that you could tell us. And of course the audience, I'm pretty sure they're wanting to hear some ghost stories, especially because it's Halloween.
Right. Yeah, so I'm a psychic medium, and I didn't know I was any different from anyone else as a little kid. I didn't understand myself why I could see certain things or spirits and the other kids couldn't see them. So that, at a young age, that was really confusing to me. My mom would I'd ask her and she'd just shrug it off and say, don't pay attention to it. Ignore it. Look the other way. But as I got older, the energy just got stronger. The gift got stronger. And so right about 7 years old is when, my maternal grandmother, so her mother was like, hey, let me just teach her the ways, but my mom being the hardcore Christian, that she is, she was completely against it. But finally she agreed to it. And then little by little, my training and honing in everything that I was seeing and feeling started to make more sense to me.
So you have like a history in your family with like mediums and.
Yes. So
Okay.
from my understanding, I'm a fourth generation medium and healer. And both of my grandmothers, so my maternal and paternal grandmothers, both had the gift.
Oh, wow.
My grandmother, Maria de los Angeles, may she rest in peace. She was the village, medicine woman. She would help women that were in labor. She was practically a midwife.
Okay.
If someone broke their bones, she would set their bones for them. Forget about, going to the hospital or whatever. Any ailments, any toothaches, she would use her knowledge with herbology and just be that village medicine woman that everybody loved and respected.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. And your background is Mexican?
Yeah, so my dad was Mexican, que en paz descanse, Juan Garcia. And unfortunately, he was killed when I was 2 years old. So he was from Tecomán, Colima. And my mom is Hondureña. She's from Honduras. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I've got that mixed of Aztec and Mayan.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah.
And you're born here, or you're born?
I was born here.
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
In California, born and raised.
So your family migrated over here, and then you're like, that's how they settled, and then.
Yeah. So my mom, she was about 18 years old when she entered. It was like some type of a sponsorship program. Do you guys know the Hanna-Barbera family? Okay, well, they're like Yogi the
They're
Bear.
like television, right?
Yeah, the
okay.
cartoon Yogi the
Yeah.
Bear. Okay, so that's the Hanna-Barbera family, and they had a sponsorship program back in the day, and she entered it by writing an essay on why she felt she should be chosen to literally leave her country, Honduras, VIP status, and come here and start a new life. And, she gave it her all, especially after just having a third grade education, because she had to go to work early, super young. I mean, she submitted it and she was chosen. So mom left the motherland, at about 18, 19 years old, came here.
She alone? It was
Alone.
Just her?
Just her.
Wow.
Yeah. And worked for the Hanna-Barbera family.
Wow.
Yes, for many, many, many years.
Wow.
And my father, it was actually a car show that brought him to the States. He had a VW bug that was, all souped up and lowered and so forth. And he was invited. Back in the day, it was so much easier for them to come to cross that Mexican border.
Yeah.
They'd get like a weekend pass
Yeah.
and then they'd go back and everything was all fine and dandy. Well, he brought the car over, participated in a car show in San Diego. And he just loved it. He loved the energy. He loved he was young. He was 22, 23 years old. 22, I think.
Yeah.
And he just said, I don't want to go back.
Yeah.
So he decided to stay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they met.
They met at a party. And my mom at the time, her first husband was killed, who was the father of both of my older brothers. And she just always wanted the little girl. And so they met at a party, and my dad jokingly was like, I'll give you your little girl. And sure enough.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
He filled that promise.
Yes. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you got technically your car enthusiasm came from your dad then?
Yes, came from my dad.
Gotcha.
Which I just think it's so amazing because, I don't have any memory of him, any recollection, just a few pictures that I have. The relationship between my mom and dad really didn't work out. It was a big difference in culture. And so they figured out they were just better friends than together. So they were co-parenting, and my dad would be there faithfully picking me up every weekend
Okay,
and
there
taking
you
me
go.
to the park.
There you go.
But to see that está en la sangre, it's in the blood,
Yeah.
and that I'm now living and fulfilling what he was into.
Yeah.
It's just so amazing.
That's awesome.
That is amazing. That's
Especially
incredible.
because you didn't really get to, do anything with him when it comes to cars.
Nope.
Was it pictures that you saw of him that might have inspired you to get into?
Nothing. I had no idea. I just found out literally a few years ago. I want to say maybe about 5 years ago on how it was by one of his sisters that said, well, I mean, I'm not surprised. Look at how, your dad came through. I was like, wait, no, I don't know this story. Share with me, and she did. And lo and behold, I looked up a car club called Ladybugs.
Okay.
That they were really big in the San Fernando Valley in the 70s. And it was an all-women's club that everyone had a bug.
Oh, nice.
Well, it turns out when my dad decided to stay in the States, he started participating in car shows in the San Fernando Valley. The vice president of that car club saw the bug, fell in love, and offered to purchase it. And because he wanted to stay and he needed the money, he ended up selling the car to this woman who was in this club. And so, yeah, it was so, again, this is all something I just found out or discovered just a few years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then when you found out, was it something that just, you're like, was it just surprising, or was it just like, oh yeah, it should have happened the way that it happened? Because, you know,
it was very surprising.
Okay.
You know, because I was first introduced to the low riding culture back in 1999 by who then was my boyfriend, now husband. And I just felt it so deep within me. And I felt like literally I was bitten by the bug. Like, oh my God, someday I'm going to be able to accomplish this and be an active participant in the low riding community.
That's awesome.
How long did it take you to like build your lowrider?
Oh my goodness, that was a process. Just under 5 years, about 4.5 years. And it is completely a full show car.
Oh,
Complete
wow.
full show car. Yeah. So it's got a complete chrome undercarriage engraved. The interior is completely customized. So when I participate or when I compete in the car shows, it's always a full luxury category or classification that they put me in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you know you wanted a Lincoln, or was is it
No,
something that
just
took you a while
happened.
to, like,
No, I'm truth be told, I'm a big fan of the glass house. So that's my dream car, and it could be a convertible.
What is the glass?
It's a
I don't
Caprice.
know.
That's okay.
Oh, okay.
And they're called glass houses because of the window in the back. There is just a lot of glass to the car. Yeah, and the way it curves, it's really beautiful. Long body. When you're riding it, you're floating. You're gliding. You know, you
Such
don't
a big
feel,
car.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the Lincoln just came about. It was an opportunity I couldn't miss. And mind you, I don't have your regular lowrider, because when you think about lowriders, you think of your bombitas, your trocas, your troquitas, or the Impalas, right? The infamous Impalas. Not a Lincoln, especially not a 4-door Lincoln, which is what I have. So when I first hit the scene, people were looking at me kind of twisted, like, what is she doing? Like, what is she thinking?
Yeah.
But I saw the vision in the car in Afterlife and what I knew I wanted to do with it. And I knew I was going to somehow, if I went into this with the open heart that I did, and honoring my past brothers from the car club that have passed away, which are now 23 of them, I knew it was just going to be able to take off and do its own thing. So in 2018, when I busted out with a car, that year, I attended 27 car shows. Pretty much that's 3 car shows a month.
Wow.
Okay. And out of the 27, I came back with 26 awards.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And there was one show, because I was a woman and because of the kind of car it was, I didn't get judged. It's okay. I was expecting that, right? Because here I am, a woman in a male-dominated sport, right? Or culture. So that one was okay. And then all the other 26 trophies and awards were all first place. 2 of them were best of shows, and 2 of them were second place. So the car did really, really good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is
That's
amazing.
That's amazing. Yeah.
What is like the name that you had for your car, the Afterlife?
Afterlife.
Is that something that you knew before you even got the car, or that came about? Like you had the car and as you were building it?
It came about as I had the car and I was building it. There was 3 top names for the car. For some reason, I'm a big Disney freak, right? So I was really stuck on Maleficent. Like I would see the car and it was like, yeah, Maleficent, right? And then Afterlife was the second one. Midnight Fantasy was the third, and there was one more, La Ofrenda. So when I had, was cutting down the names, I was stuck with Afterlife y La Ofrenda. And at the end of the day, Afterlife was the one that just felt it was a perfect fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. So we spoke a little bit about your dad going into the car, and then of course how you got into the cars, now getting to the nitty gritty as far as like any stories, as far as like anything that you've encountered maybe when you were younger, going into maybe adolescence, and then of course going through the process with you said your grandma.
Yes.
I definitely, I'm kind of interested as far as like what exactly do you do as far as like to maybe, I'm guessing it's like to enhance it or maybe to understand.
Learn
Yes.
it, or-
Yeah. So pretty much, the both of them just took me under their wing and just showed me how to live life, but always having that positive energy and outlook, and just always wanting to help someone that was in need or needed assistance. They also taught me on how to have my faith in God, because that is the biggest foundation in what I do when I work as a spiritual advisor, or when I go into a home that has like really bad paranormal activity. You gotta be brave.
Yeah.
And you gotta hold on to something that's a higher power, that you can call upon for protection, guidance, and courage. So, it was a lot of, I remember my grandmother's, if we were walking down the street and there was someone in need and that they looked hungry, she would stop me a few feet away and say, what can you tell me about this person? What do you feel? Close your eyes, go with it. And hunger was always one of the top things that would come out. And so then the lesson or the homework or the task was, go find this person some food. And then you're going to serve this person that food. And those were just huge lessons, that have stuck with me throughout all these years.
And was that like physical food or more so like spiritual? Okay.
Physical. And then once I would hand them the food, I'd sit with them. And now I was offering a friendship. I was letting these people know that they're the forgotten people of our society, that they're not.
Okay.
I'd make eye contact and talk to them and say, hey, I see you.
Okay, gotcha.
And I may be too young still where I don't understand what got you here or why, but just know there's no judgment here. I come with a pure heart. And here's my time. How can I help?
At what age were you at this time?
This started, I want to say it was about 8, 9 years old.
Okay.
And it just continued on from there.
Oh, wow.
So I'm really big whenever I get the opportunity, Thanksgiving time and so forth. I will always prep brown paper lunch bags and make so many of them. I have clients that mail me checks from throughout the country and say, hey, Silvia, here's $150 sponsorship. Please feed as many as you can with this. So I gather all of these funds. I'll prepare the meals, and then I will set out and just go and feed whoever I see is out on the street that is hungry. Here in the Antelope Valley, as you guys know, the temperatures are super extreme. So I do what's called a winter care package in a big Ziploc bag. What's in there? Gloves, 2 brand new pair of long crew socks, chapsticks, Tylenols, a beanie hat, scarf, feminine products for the women, and I hand them that package with a brown paper, lunch bag. And so it's something I've done, and it has helped guide me through this process. My grandmother, Maria de los Angeles, it was more of the faith. You stay strong in your faith. You have to believe in the higher power. There are going to be days where you're going to be so scared, your knees are going to be shaking, and you're going to feel like the bones are clacking of how scared you are. But you stand your ground and know that you are a child of God and you will be protected because you're here on earth doing his work.
Gotcha. Now, as far as like, because you had mentioned your mom as far as like her being Christian.
Yes.
And I know, because I'm not religious myself, but I grew up in a church as far as like Christian church, and they always go through the scripture as far as like, you shouldn't mess with anything that has to do with the afterlife. You have to follow the Bible. As far as like that conflict between family members, how was that settled so that you could come in and then, because it is family, not just a random lady just teaching you random stuff. It was your grandma or both of your grandmas.
Yes.
So how did that come about where there's no conflict as far as like where your mom said, you can't do this? Like, what was the conversation?
the conflict is still there. I gotta tell you.
Oh, wow.
It never really resolved. It got to a point when I was at about 12, 13 years old where it was asked to stop. But at that point, I already had a certain foundation. And I had always wondered at times with my grandmothers, like, wait, why are we moving so fast? Like, what's the rush? And it was when my mom finally put a stop to it. I was like, oh, they were trying to get in as much as they could before the plug was pulled. You see what I mean?
Gotcha.
And so, I do what I do, and still to this day, my mom frowns at it. She's not happy about it.
So your mom doesn't like have any of the like medium or
No, but she is gifted. She does have a gift. Okay. She is able, to speak in tongues, and she is able to speak to celestial beings. So I've witnessed that, I have seen that, and we've had numerous discussions as to, okay, what's different? Like,
And I was going to ask as well, I was going to ask the same question. I guess you were going to maybe answer it, but I was going to ask, what would be the difference between a spirit, ghost, and a celestial?
Oh, yeah.
As far as like, what's the definition, or is it the same?
Well, see, for me, it's the same, but my mom feels that because the time frame or when it happens, when she speaks to celestial beings, she's in church. She feels that it's God appointed and driven at that moment, and it's okay. She's got the green light. Well, when I'm going through what I go through with spirit, I'm not necessarily at church. It happens wherever I'm at.
Yeah.
As you guys know, I came in here, and he's the production?
Danny
production. As you guys, I walked in, and then immediately the spirit that's with Danny, came through and started talking to me. So I don't have to be in church for that to happen. But, not all of us are as open-minded, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
Is it a feeling, or is it visual, or is it like where like it's internal? How could you define it for those that don't know what exactly your experiences is?
Yeah, great question. So I'm clairvoyant, so I'm able to see spirit. And the thing is, it depends how evolved the spirit is at the time of their passing, or the lessons that they've learned in the afterlife, that they're able to level up and become more evolved. So the more evolved a spirit is, the easier it is for me to see them. And I can sit here and describe and say, oh, okay, he's a Caucasian male. He's got a ponytail, thin build. He's about 5'7", and he's got freckles. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Compared to a spirit who is not as evolved, because maybe when they lived their life, they didn't do it that good while they were here. It'll be a little harder. It'll be like a mist formation for me. But I'm also able to hear them. They can also communicate with me through symbols. Some spirits decide to use some of my own memories, where they show it to me like a film, and I see it, and then I say, okay, they want me to talk about this, and then their loved one says, I know exactly what that is. So, in all the years I've been doing this, I never question. I just go with the flow. Another thing about spirit communication is, think of it this way. So everyone in here that is living, we're vibrating, we're energy, we're a ball of energy. And we all vibrate at different frequencies. So when spirit is coming through, they're vibrating super high because they're in the afterlife, super fast. I ask them to slow down their frequency as they give me time to speed mine up. And somewhere in the middle, we meet, and we're like, here we go. This is where we're at. Let's go ahead and do this. How can I help you?
Okay, gotcha. As far as like now that we have different technologies, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and that is a frequency of energy, do you believe that that is an interference or an enhancement?
That's a great question.
The only reason I ask these things is because I'm more tech oriented. And of course, I always hear about the bees, how our Wi-Fi or Bluetooth is affecting certain animals.
Yes.
So that's kind of where it came about in my head. And of course, I'm now just leading into this conversation because we're talking about it.
I love it. I've never been asked this one. So I believe it enhances and it helps. Let me tell you why. Because when, and there's interviews actually on YouTube where they've been interviewing me and the cameras have been completely charged. Once spirit starts coming in, their battery dies.
Ah.
It is completely depleted.
Okay.
But why is spirit doing that? Is because they're tapping into that energy to make it easier for them to communicate with me.
Okay. So they're using it in their behalf,
Yes.
but is it taking away from us to connect? Because
Yes.
because you said that their frequency is already high and ours is, or those that have that gift is kind of low, and you're kind of just trying to raise it.
Yes.
But of course now they're using frequencies that isn't natural. They're enhancing their frequency, but
If it's not an evolved spirit and they need the help, they need that boost.
oh, okay, gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
So, like when someone passes, sorry, go ahead.
Not to cut you off, because I will forget.
Yeah.
I'm like Dory. Call me Dory. But also, it does affect, because what's going on with today's society? We're on our phones. We're so immersed into what's happening on social media and our phones and this. We're really not stopping to feel.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
You know?
I get what you're saying. As far as like, it's not a feeling that we're kind of taking away from our experience here. It's more of just the experience of just living life rather than just experience it through some screen. And the only reason I say that is because one, I'm more of an outdoors person, but of course I'm a tech guy. When I do need to rejuvenate myself, I love to go out to the woods.
Excellent.
And it's more of a, because I do get asked, what do you like better, the beach or the mountains? I like both, but just for the factor that there is no signal in the woods, that's kind of where I'm like, okay, I like that better, because if I'm at the beach, I can still take a picture and post it on my social media. So I'm taking away from that experience initially, rather than just living in the moment. I'm technically trying to show off the moment, and I'm taking it away from myself.
I hear you. Are you an earth sign, an air sign? What sign are you?
I don't know.
What's your birthday?
January.
January. You're earth. January what?
27?
Oh, okay. So I would have pinned you a Capricorn, which is in January, but you're at the end. So no, you're not earth. Which I'm gonna say is Aquarius, which is air. So again, that would make sense to me, because those two elements are really big in the woods. It's very grounding there, compared to the beach, where it's more of a purification, and water and fire signs, are able to disconnect easier from that. So that, to me, when you speak that, it makes total sense.
But it's just more off of the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
It's literally just if it were to go either way, I could go either way. It doesn't mean that I'll take away from the beach,
Right.
over the experience or the mountains. It's just literally just I don't have a cell phone signal to kind of like have me take a picture and wanting to post it right away. That's where I'm trying to take away my experience to try to show it to other people, as far as like, because I do see a lot of highlights now on social media, and I'm like, well, why are you taking a picture? Just live in the moment. Or when you're at a party, what do you see? People are just taking pictures, and they're at the corner trying to think about the description or think about the hashtag. I'm like,
yeah, it almost feels like people are like attending things or doing things just to show it off, like not really to actually be there and experience it. It's just like, oh, I was here, I did this.
Yes. Yeah,
That's
you're
what
absolutely
it almost
right.
feels like.
yeah. So the follow-up question, as far as like when it comes to tech, let's say we didn't have cell phones or we didn't have computers. Let's say we're in the 1800s. Do you think that it would be more of a commonality as far as like what you have towards the generality, as far as like everyone around us? Or do you think it's a gift that is only specifically for certain people?
Great question. I'm a firm believer of this. We're all born psychic. Each and every one of us. We come into this plane, into this human realm, having psychic abilities. I like to use the analogy of Babe Ruth. Like, he wasn't born with a baseball bat in his hand, but nonetheless, he had that drive and he trained for it, making him the exceptional player that he is. A pianist, same thing. Well, it's just like me. Like, I was born with it. I was curious. I accepted it. And then that training began, making the gift flourish.
Gotcha.
So I believe we're all psychic.
All right. So is there a specific type of person that could kind of have what you have as far as like now matured, as far as like the ability of it, but without the training that you went through?
Yes. And I'm going to tell you one of the fast track to that is people that have had near-death experiences. They're like, boom, just like they'll wake up from whatever experience they had, and all of a sudden they have it. And, you know, to be in your 30s, in your 40s, or your 50s, and you wake up and all of a sudden you can see the spirit realm, let me tell you, it's very daunting and nerve-wracking. Shocking. I used to, and I'm going to share a story with them. I'm going to go into this story. I have worked in emergency rooms, and I remember one day the ambulance came in with a gentleman. He was Latin. He was in his 40s, and on the third floor of that hospital was the psych ward. And they were taking him up, right? And I was trying to help translate because he didn't speak English. So I was trying to do his intake, and all of a sudden, at the hospital, a spirit walked through. I happened to glance because, you know, you see movement and that's your first reaction. You want to turn to that direction. I glanced, looked at the spirit. He looked at it, saw me look at it, and he was like, "Dear God, you can see them too." And he just started, see, I'm not crazy. Tell them I'm not crazy. You see it too. So I told him in Spanish, I said, look, as soon as my shift is over, I'm going to come up to the third floor and visit you, and we're going to have a discussion and a talk. So about 6 hours later, I did just that. Went up there and I sat with him, and he started telling me that all of a sudden he could see spirits. The next thing I know, I had someone that I was guiding through the process. And he was able to take control back of his life and work with it to the level that he felt comfortable with, but still lead a normal life. Up to that point, he had lost his family. He was lost in drugs because he was trying to, you know, cope with it and make it go away. And everything he was trying to do wasn't working. So at that point, you know, he was ready to opt out. He was suicidal. Hence why they had picked him up and taken him there.
Gotcha.
And then I made a long life friend, you know,
right.
and we still reach out to each other. I check up on him, and yeah.
That's awesome.
Wow. Is he the only person you've like gone through that process with, or are there other people that you have been able to like train and teach?
There are other people that I have been able to take under my wing and help them. As far as like teaching them everything from A through Z, I've only had two. And, you know, I did what I did, and he took what he needed, and, you know, we're no longer in each other's lives. And at this very moment, I have a new student who's also a male, and he's just taking everything in and learning so beautifully. And I know that he's going to do beautiful things with all of the knowledge that he's learning. And I can't wait to see what he does with it. Children are really big. When they go through major trauma, it also triggers something, especially children that have gone through physical abuse and or sexual assault and abuse.
Yeah. Wow. And what about animals?
Animals. What do you want to know about animals?
I always heard that animals have a certain sixth sense as far as like if there's bad energy, good energy.
Sense it?
Yes.
And they could also sense negativity.
They can see it.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I didn't see this.
Animals
Things I don't know.
can
Things that I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm able to speak with animals.
Oh wow!
Yep. Communicate.
Should
with
buy your
them.
Like living?
Living and
Okay.
past.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And so animals are super sensitive, and they will see, and they will let you know when something is up. You know, pay attention to those hairs standing up,
Yeah.
the growling, you know, or just not wanting to be even in the same room, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, animals are super special.
Yeah, I was
Yeah, if you want to repeat the story, because we were kind of going through topics as far as like before you got here, like, oh, what questions do you? Because we didn't want to have the same topics as far as like the same questions, and then after that, I started asking him like, have you have any experiences? And he was telling me, I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty spooky.
Okay.
pretty sweet. No, so like when my family first moved out here to Little Rock, and the house that we were going to move into, they had their little dog with them. And when they went inside the house, the dog immediately ran like to the far bedroom and started barking like into the room. So my parents, you know, they went to go check it out. They went inside the room. There's nothing there, and the dog wouldn't like go in the room. It would like just stayed outside, and it was just like barking and barking and barking, like at a specific corner of the room. And so like they just didn't really think much of it. But then like other stuff, like I was telling him, just growing up, there are other things that happened. Like my sister one time, she woke up in the middle of the night and she saw 3 girls just standing in the doorway of the bedroom. So that room actually became like my sister and I, like our bedroom. So we ended up in that room.
Wow, lucky you.
So then like that was something that happened. And then another time when my younger sister was a baby, she would sleep in the bedroom with us, and she would always wake up like in the middle of the night crying. And you know, and we would like comfort her. But there was one particular night that she woke up and she was crying, and as I was getting ready to get up to like comfort her, there was just this voice that came from like that corner of the room, the bedroom, and it was this male voice, and it was like, she wants you, like really deep. And I was like, I'm not getting up. I got scared. I was like maybe like, I don't know, 8, 9 at the time.
Okay.
So that completely freaked me out. And I was just like, I just froze and I didn't move. And my sister's crying. And then my mom comes into the room. She turns on the light. And of course, by then I'm like, okay, there's light.
Right. Safety. Saved by the light.
So she comes in. She's like, why didn't you guys like help her? She's crying. And then my other sister, she was like, but then I heard this voice. And so then my sister had also heard it. And I was like, I heard it too. So then that was like something that we haven't like been able to explain, obviously. And it's just like, was really, really creepy. And I don't know what that would have been.
A disembodied voice. You had a spirit. From everything that you've, explained thus far, sounds like there was a spirit that was also there. So you guys were not alone.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it was more than one. If your sister also saw the 3, little girls. But what you experience is a disembodied voice.
So is there any way to tell if it's like
good or
positive
bad?
or negative?
Yeah, you want to pay attention to, how it makes you feel. Like, is there a feeling of dread? Is there a lot of fear? Do your hairs on your arms, spike up and stand? You want to pay attention to that stuff. And then when it's also like negative energy or an evil entity, poltergeist activity is going to start taking place in the home, meaning stuff is going to start moving on its own. Things are going to start flying across the room. Things of that nature.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because you also have your earthbound spirits that are here on earth that just feel like, I really don't want to go into the light. I'm good here. A lot of them are afraid of what we're taught. And what is that? That when you pass, you're going to be judged. Judgment. And so they're like, I'm good. I don't need to go.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they're just like, I'm good here. I'm going to stay here. So these are earthbound spirits.
Gotcha. Do you think, or would you define it as a dimension that we don't, or a realm that we don't see?
Yes, it's a realm.
Okay.
It's definitely a spiritual realm.
Yeah.
And there's more than one realm. So
Gotcha.
there's levels to it. And depending on your soul and what you did as you were here walking this earth, it depends on what level you're going to.
And do you, because I'm kind of going off of references of movies that I've seen.
Oh, okay.
The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Are there spirits or ghosts that don't know that they're dead?
Yes,
Oh, interesting.
there are.
Interesting.
There are. And when I've got to break the news to them, sometimes it's not fun. I remember one time I had to let a young soul, he was about 15, 16 years old. And he didn't know. And I had to break the news to him. And let me tell you, when I did, I remember the mirrors just cracking in the room, just breaking, because it was that energy that he just put out of like disbelief and sorrow,
frustration,
and how I'm only 16, like this can't be happening, So yeah.
So once they do figure it out, is it something that they could then decide for themselves if they want to stay within that same level, or do it? Because I get it. Certain things happen so rapidly. I could understand that maybe they didn't understand that they did pass?
Correct.
Or is it there another thought process in their head where maybe they're in denial?
Some spirits do stay in denial, and they don't care what I've got to say.
Gotcha.
They go on their merry little way. But then the majority of the spirits, I'm able to establish a relationship with them where trust is built, and then I'm able to help them cross over into the light. Some go easier than others. With him, it took me a minute. But finally, and it was his choice. He decided. He says, okay, I'm going to go ahead and go. And he went into the light.
Interesting.
Yeah.
As far as the light, what is the light?
The light is, think of it as the vortex, the entryway into whatever realm you're going to fall into, whatever level of the afterlife that you're going to go into.
Okay.
Could you kind of describe a little bit as far as maybe the levels that they might go into? Is it like a heaven to hell, or is it like a different thing that we haven't even been taught because it's too much for our brains to comprehend?
So I yet have not had a spirit tell me this is heaven or this is hell, right? But there's like, the more elevated you are, it's like the higher the euphoric feeling that these spirits have.
Interesting.
And the more that they're able to assist people or that are here living a human experience, that they're able to come down here and help and assist with whoever needs help and so forth.
So they could actually come back once they hit the light?
Yes. Now, okay, so there's reincarnation, right? And I don't want to confuse that with them having a mission to come down here, help someone, and go back.
Reincarnation meaning reborn?
Being reborn.
Gotcha.
Some spirits do decide, because they're given the choice on the other side, like, okay, well, if you want to go ahead and give this a try, you can do that. You're going to go back. So let's take, for example, Tim. Let's use the name Tim.
Yeah, I like Tim.
So Tim has passed away, and then they explain to him at whatever level he arrives, but there are higher levels that he didn't get to, and they'll say, hey, well, if you want a chance, you can go back, try to refigure out the lessons you didn't do, and when you're ready, you can come back and hopefully re-enter at a higher level. But Tim stays at the level that he's at, but his essence, a part of his essence, is what now gets sent here to have another human experience.
Like personality, character traits, is it?
Yes,
Gotcha.
yes. But Tim still stays here.
All right.
So are you able to like see that in people, like that they have
Older spirits?
like or they're like reincarnated?
Yes.
That's interesting.
Oh.
Yes.
Does anyone in here have an old spirit? I want to know. Danny, you're old. You're 100 years old, Danny.
Danny, wow.
Danny, what sign are you? Libra. So yeah. So you're Libras. And what about you, Ariana?
I'm a Gemini.
Gemini. So you're air. You're like right in between of spirits that decide to come back or not. It's not your first rodeo, but you're not up here either. You want to look at your water signs. These people are the ones that they're pros. Like they've come and gone. They're like, let's do this again. I got this. A lot of the water signs, also depending on what they are, they decide not to come back. They're like, we're done. We've been there enough times. We've gotten to the level that we want. We're done. So you want to think about Cancers. You want to think about people, Scorpio, Pisces. Yeah. Your Aries with the fire signs. Libra. Libra is all about harmony, balance, and justice. Danny's here to make sure that he represents fairness. There's a lot that he's going to contribute to society in regards to speaking his truth and what his beliefs are, as long as it's helping others.
You hear that, Danny? Gotta speak the truth.
No pressure.
Gotta speak the truth, Danny. Gotta give a speech.
Because my dad's a Pisces, and I wouldn't say that he is like a medium or anything, but I know he has said that he's sensitive to energy, I guess. Like he could feel things, and he does have dreams where
Prolific
they
dreams
like come true, or things that like he sees things in dreams.
Yes.
So that's very interesting.
Yes. We water
being a water
people
sign.
are very
So
in
you're a
tune.
water sign.
I'm Cancer. I'm a Cancer. I'm July 19. So we're very in tune. Talk about like on point. Like, and my son, he's a Scorpio. By the way, my son was also born with a gift.
Oh, nice.
You know, but he has shout out to my boy. He's turning 30 years old.
All right, there you go. There you go.
Birthday.
Happy birthday, Jonathan. But he has made a decision to not work with his ability and gifts. And, you know, because it's not easy. And I respect that. I totally respect it. But without him even trying, oh my goodness, that boy has an ability. He listens to that gut feeling. He's very connected with his third eye. So, and again, being a water sign, it just comes easy.
Okay. All right. Once again, I'm going off of references that I've seen on, not on movies, episodes or whatever. So there's this episode or this show called American Horror Story.
Yes.
I think it is the second season when they're in a sane asylum and they've connected the Catholic Church, the religion, but they also connected aliens into that episode or that season, which I thought was very interesting because that was the first time that I actually saw that being blended in because of religion. They don't really go off of the extraterrestrial concepts, but they made it. I thought it was amazing. I just thought the idea of it was really cool because they got into the Catholic Church. There was priests, there was nuns, they were in a sane asylum, and then they brought in these aliens. And I'm like, bro, that's different. So going off of the astrology, because that's kind of like star oriented, is there anything that you could say that is extraterrestrial when it comes to the spirit realm?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And they're here, by the way. We're not alone. No.
Interesting.
I had my first experience on my 11th birthday. I was actually I was somewhere in between California and driving, which was a 12-day trip, driving to Honduras, the motherland, for that summer, because I'd go over there for the summers. And we were parked, and we were in like a fifth wheel. And all of a sudden, I was sleeping on the top bunk. The top bunk had this long window, and I happened to look out, and I see this disc up in the air, different light colors, and I'm like, what is that, right? And so I wake up my cousin. I'm like, get out here, come and look. And that was my first UFO sighting.
Wow.
And it was amazing. It was interesting. But it also drained the heck out of me. I do remember that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was
That's
super
interesting.
tired after seeing him. The vibration, like I kept covering my ears, and my cousin Daisy was like, what are you doing? I was like, can't you hear that? Like, it's so loud. She's like, I don't hear nothing.
Gotcha.
You know, my uncle, her dad came out, and he was like, what are you guys doing? And we showed it to him, and he was like, oh yeah, it's un platillo. And we're like,
Wow, it's just like nothing.
like nothing. He's like, can
They
you
come
girls?
every Thursday.
Yeah. He's like, can you girls shut up? I need to get sleep.
Oh
you
my
know?
goodness.
And he didn't hear anything the next day as we were talking to him about it. So yeah, that was interesting. But yeah, they do. The silver beings do exist.
That's interesting. So now going off of that topic, because you kind of brought a topic that I'm not really interested, but it's just something that I don't know about. So if there's any knowledge that you could give us, or me specifically, because I'm the one asking, the pyramids when it comes to Egypt, and also the Aztecs and the Mayans, because we do, and of course archaeologists, and of course even now with the tech that we have, they still can't explain how the pyramids were built. Do you believe that a form of intelligence was then
assisting them?
Yes. Assisting, and
110%. Yes, 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 and yes.
so when it comes to then that idea, what was then the purpose as far as like were that knowledge that were those scriptures or whoever they taught it to? Why isn't that a part of our now current technology?
Why wasn't it like passed down?
Yeah, exactly. Why did it disappear?
Okay. Well, not all of it has disappeared, and I'm going to explain why I say this. When I do spiritual cleanses on people, my preferred tool is a crystal rock. I see you're wearing one right now around your neck. Is that an amethyst?
I have no idea.
Let's see. Is it?
I just know it's black.
Oh, it's tourmaline. Okay, tourmaline. Do you know what tourmaline represents?
No. I'm shout out to my friend Sarah. She's the one that does these little rocks and she basically gave it to me, and of course it was a gift from her. So
Okay,
I'm gonna
perfect.
definitely represent whatever she gives me.
Nice job, Sarah. I love your wiring work there. So tourmaline is a crystal that is there to ward off negative energy. It keeps it at a distance. It helps your auric field be stronger, and it blocks. So when, like, if someone's throwing you like the evil eye, like, ew, Irving, da 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 da,
Yeah.
it's like it reflects it
Oh,
and it
nice.
just shoots it back. So kudos to Sarah for that.
There you
It's a
go.
beautiful gift.
Nice.
So I choose to work with crystals, and this is what I do to help people go through any physical, spiritual warfare that they're experiencing. And there are some crystals. I have a record keeper. And let me explain about the record keeper. And I should have brought it so you guys could have seen it. On this crystal, there are lines. There's also pyramids. They're triangles. People see them and they're like, oh, it's a triangle. No, it's a pyramid. There is embedded information on each line of these record keepers and on each triangle. So they've been downloaded with knowledge. So the knowledge is still there. It's just up to us to go out there, look for it, seek it, and then try to understand it. That is a crystal that I do not use on everyone because of how potent and how powerful it is. You know, I don't want to freak someone out. If I give them that too soon, I could turn them off to their spiritual awakening, I don't want to do that. So to answer your question, it's still here. It's still amongst us. It's up to us whether we go seek it and we try to find the answers. And I think, I don't know if it was Ariana that was saying it, why were they here or why were they helping us? They wanted to see our species flourish. They wanted to help any way possible because we were needing it. We were really needing it. But
So then, are they able? Like, are they connected to that higher vibration? Then, like, were they able to sense that from where they were? Because obviously they're not from Earth.
Right. Yeah.
So
they were
can,
able to see it and sense it and go, man, these people need our help. And they're still like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you think there's different, like, because we have different cultures and we come from different areas of I guess, Earth. Do you believe there's different creatures or different aliens depending on what universe they're coming from, or are they basically the same?
Ooh, from my understanding, they're basically the same. Yeah, but, and I don't know if this is where but I'm going to go into this topic. You guys know about reptilians?
Yes.
I've heard,
Yes.
Okay.
The lizard people.
The lizard people.
Yeah, the lizard people for
Let me
sure.
tell you, there's a big group of reptilians here in the Antelope Valley.
I could see that.
I can see that.
People are weird. I could definitely see that. I could definitely-
Like over at AV Hospital, there's babies that are being born with tails all
Wow.
the time.
Nice.
And they go into the surgery, and the parents' doctor's
Yeah.
tail.
No, that's
Yeah.
definitely been happening.
And so
for sure.
it's a big group out here. Just like, don't get mad at me, guys, the vampires.
The vampires?
There's vampires out here.
What?
Yes.
Like they could live forever?
Like they.
Well, I yet haven't found one that can live forever, but I will say this: their aura and their frequency vibrates on such a different level that I sometimes have to look away because it's a little bit too much. But there are places here in the Antelope Valley called safe homes, and what you can do is you can go into the safe home and donate some of your blood, and they'll do what they need to do. They store it, they cool it, so that when these vampire people have the urge and the need for a feeding, they go into the safe home.
Reminds me of the movie Blade.
They take a drink of it. You know what I mean? Nobody gets hurt.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting. I've never even thought about vampires. I thought that was just kind of fictional. So going into now, we spoke about spirits, ghosts, aliens, reptilian people.
What exactly are reptilians? Like
Well, as far as like I know, they're just people that can morph into different. I guess you could look at a certain thing and then just morph into it. Basically, like what is it like?
Shape-shifting.
Yeah, there you go, shifting.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
but
do they choose to like look like a human most of the time then, or
yeah,
that's
most of the
just-
time they do. But then you have some of them that are like, so they split the tongue so that it looks like a snake's tongue. They sharpen the teeth. They'll put like the silver balls on the eyebrows, so that it gives them the features of a reptile.
Yeah.
And they really go into it, and they're just proud of who they are, and some of them, yes, still do have their tails.
Interesting. That's new. I know I've heard of the theory of it.
Yeah.
They didn't know if there was any form of evidence of it.
Yeah, I've met some.
That's interesting. And do they know their history, or do they even?
Oh, yes. They're very knowledgeable people. They're very respectful people. They really are. Vampires, they're a different.
Different breed?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So they're like all over the world then?
Yes,
like
they are.
Vampires and reptilians?
Yeah. Yes, they are. Yeah. But here in the high desert, it's just a bit of a larger population. And I think a lot has to do with it. Like it's super hot up here, reptiles just flourish in this type of
environment. Gotcha. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. Another pop culture reference in my head. Items that are haunted. So like Annabelle.
Yeah.
Could you kind of go off of, or if you have any knowledge of that?
Yes. Items can definitely be haunted and entities attached to it. So my husband had the bad habit of, if he was driving down the street, he's very much into antiques. He loves antiques.
Yeah.
So if someone's grandmother passed away and they were having an estate sale, and that server, 1920s server or 1910 server didn't sell, it was going out on the curb. Jackpot for him. He'd put it in the back of the truck, bring it home, and the next thing you know, I would have a spirit that was just not happy and having to deal with that. And it was like, it took some time to get him used to, like, do me a favor, like, I get it, you have this urge, just leave it outside for me. Let me come out and cleanse it. Let me disconnect whatever, if anything, is attached to a certain item.
Yeah.
Send it on its way, and then go ahead and do whatever plans you have, with this piece of furniture or item. So yes, that is very possible, and
spirits or demons?
both.
Interesting.
Did they just have like an attachment or connection to that particular item?
Yes, an attachment and or connection.
Very interesting.
But demons do prefer, I will say, a living host.
Gotcha.
Someone who is alive and living.
And what do they prey on, as far as like if they find, or like, are they looking for a specific type of person or a specific type of spirit?
Yeah. So, there's been so many cases that I've worked on. Let's see, what can I share with you? There was, we had a case of, there was a child sexual assault that was going on in a family. And the adults in the family knew about it and were looking the other way. And this child was just not getting help.
Wow.
Right? So it got to the point where there was this demon that was loose in the home because of all of the trauma and the heinous acts, right, that were being performed on a child, that they removed the little girl from the home. And then one day the demon went into her younger brother. So, it depends, like, what the situation is. It's all different. I also, at one point, changing into a different story, I had roommates. And there were two older women, and one of them was a Christian, a Protestant Christian. The owner of the home, who was renting the room to me, was Catholic like myself. I'm Catholic. And that year she said, "Hey, Sylvia, would you teach me how to make an altar this year for my loved ones that have crossed over?" I said, "Sure, not a problem." So in the living room, she had a big, wide open living room. We created this beautiful altar with all of her ancestors and family members that had crossed over. Well, the third roommate, the Christian woman, had walked into the home and she mocked the altar, and it just wasn't sitting well with her. And she started throwing out biblical verses where, like, you can't be doing this. You need to let your dead rest. You're summoning them. This is evil, yada, yada, yada. And this was a person that would at least spend in church about 4 to 5 days a week in church. Okay? It was like church, church.
Very devoted on their religion.
Very devoted.
Okay.
However, one of the things that I saw was that was going on Monday through Thursday. Friday to Sunday, this woman was living a completely different life, drinking, doing drugs, you name it. She was, and then come Monday, she was like, "Oh God, forgive me," and devote 4 days. And I one day told the owner of the house, "Hey, you know what? What she's doing is a mockery. It's like, pick what you're gonna do, find a happy medium balance, but she's got to stop doing that because she's gonna invite something that is just not pretty." Well, sure enough, the day she mocked the altar and she was saying what she was saying, I left. I didn't want to hear it. So I went into my room, and about 20 minutes later, I get a knock on the door, and it's the owner. She's like, "Sylvia, I need your help. What's going on? So-and-so is acting really bizarre. Can you come and take a look at her?" Okay. So I put on my slippers and I go to the door and I see her, and she's in full-blown possession. And I'm like, oh boy.
Was she floating?
No, she wasn't floating just yet.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my.
So I went into the room and was just like assisting her. I told the owner, "Hey, you need to call family member or somebody, one of her kids." For some reason, she ended up calling the woman's pastor. So about 30 minutes later, he arrives to the house. He was in his 30s, about 6'4", a real good-looking man, very humble and gentle. When he walks in, I forewarn him. I'm like, "Hey, I just want to let you know this is what's happening. She's in full possession mode." And he says, "Oh, okay." I says, "Be careful, because whatever you do may make the situation a whole lot worse, and it's just us." And so he went into the room and they were talking. And the next thing I know, about 15 minutes later, I hear, "Can I go ahead and pray for you?" Right? And he gets, and I guess I wasn't in the room, so I didn't see what her answer was, but I'm guessing it was yes, because then he goes to stand up, lays hands on her to pray. The next thing I know, we hear this voice that was not hers. It was very demonic. And homeboy goes flying across the room into the corner of the room.
Wow.
Just pew. And I was like, oh, here we go. That was it. It just went out. It just spiraled out of control at that point where, the bed started shaking. There was a lot of growling. There was just...
Like the movie The Exorcist?
Okay, so Hollywood has gotten that down really good, by the way.
Wow.
Okay, really good.
Really?
All that stuff is like very accurate.
Accurate.
Oh my goodness. That's
Except
scary.
if I were to pick something, if you were to tell me to pick something that isn't accurate, that Hollywood is the whole pentagram thing. That's not accurate.
The star thing?
The star with the circle?
Gotcha.
That's not accurate. Okay? That's not
Made
a
up.
symbol of evilness, or it is a symbol. It's a Wicca symbol. It's about peace, love, unity, so it's not that. So Hollywood's got that way wrong.
Gotcha.
However, everything else, pretty damn accurate.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that story ended with the fire, the police, the sheriff department being called in. They came in and they had to, among 6 men, hold her down, put her on the gurney, tie her up, and roll her away.
Interesting. What would you define a demon?
Demon is an evil entity that I don't want to say the word hell, but comes from a lower surface realm that is beneath us and is here to wreak havoc and to just share darkness, sadness, anger, greed, violence. That's what a demon is to me. That and that they're able to, unfortunately, possess someone who's living, with the sole purpose of collecting that soul and somehow taking it to whatever higher power the demon has.
Interesting. I'm very interested.
Yeah,
So the thing is that I'm not. My mom tried her hardest to get me into religion, as far as like the Christian church. I'm a very stubborn person when it comes to anything that if I don't like it or if I'm not into it, you could push me into any church camp kids thing that she tried so hard. But for some reason, it just never stuck.
Okay.
Just because I feel like certain things that I feel are visual based, they're not touch based, but they're more sensitive as far as like, if I don't like certain things that I feel towards certain people, I stay away from. I always define church as a hospital. So the way that I would tell my mom, because the way that you could explain that lady that was going certain days and then partying the other days, I'll tell my mom like, okay, why are you going to take me to a hospital when I'm not sick? So you're technically trying to affect me off of this energy that people are trying to heal, because the word is the bread, or you're trying to feed yourself with positivity. And I understand the idea of what church is. It's community, it's commonality. You know, you want to be amongst people that have that same positive energy. But unfortunately, we've this is my own personal take. I'm not going to say this goes for every religion, but I think we've kind of diluted the idea of what religion is now. So it's going to benefit certain people.
Yes.
And that's kind of where my head always went to, not because I was trying to be judgmental, because at that age I was way too young to actually understand what was kind of going around me, but it was just more of the feeling that I was getting from the places that I was going towards. I understand when you're being genuine, I feel it, but when you're being disgenuine, I also feel it. So for me, it was always a take back. As far as like, were there good people that I met and I still have in my life? 100%. But could I see myself being in a building where they would say, you know, the gospel or whatever it is that they were trying to preach? It was hard for me to sit still, like it wasn't for me. I'm not saying that I don't believe in God,
Right.
but I'm just more of the pessimistic.
Okay.
Like I believe and I don't believe, and I believe if I see, and if I, that type of person. I'm that person. That's why I'm always asking questions. Like I'm the tech guy. So of course I want to know I want to know if 1 + 1 = 2, and I want to know why it equals. You have to break it down for me. So that's kind of why I'm always asking these questions, because of course I haven't asked anybody, and you're the first person that I actually come across that had told me openly, like, hey, this is what I'm feeling. Of course, I have family from Mexico that they'll tell me ghost stories, and my past relatives, she would see things and all this other stuff. But for me, it was more of like, I don't know anybody that I could then talk to. And if I had a question as far as like, what is the realm? What's the difference between heaven and hell? Is heaven and hell real? So when off of what I had just said, what is your then outtake towards then religion? Because I know somewhat of the past of where Catholicism comes from, Christianity, and of course from Christianity now we have a branch of different religions, and some now are calling themselves non-denominational. And then every single church, and here's where my background comes from, because every time that I would step into a church, I would always I was always wanted as a leader. Like they would always put me in a leader position, which I would always deny. And I would always tell them, I never want to feel needed. I just want to feel wanted. So if you need me, I don't want to be here because you need me. And it's more of just, it's not the responsibility, but it's just certain things I just didn't understand yet. My character is very calm. You're not going to see me outside, because when I'm an introvert, so it's just my personality trait. It's not that I'm reading a scripture, I'm going into some sort of Buddhism that, peace on earth and always positivity. It's just literally my persona, as far as like, I don't like beer because I don't like the taste. Has nothing to do with religion, has nothing to do with that I see it being negative towards your body or your brain, or I know the negativities of alcohol, I know the negativities of drugs, but I was never driven towards those things, not because of religion. So of course, those that were in leadership positions, they would see me like, oh, this kid, he's going to be a good influence. I'm like, you don't know, because this is me. I'm not doing it because of your beliefs. It's just who I am. So my actual question would be, what is then your definition of what religion has become, in your own words, I would say?
Yeah. So to me, unfortunately, and I was just having this conversation earlier today, it has been manipulated to fit each person or each group's life. like to benefit them. A lot of the things have been lost in translation. It's no longer organic, right? So being raised evangelical Christian like yourself, I never felt connected to church or the group of people that was there or the things that were happening there as well. I was there because, well, I didn't have a choice.
Yeah,
like I
yeah.
had to be there.
You
It's
have
like,
to
okay. But as you know, in the Protestant Christian faith, you get baptized when you say you're ready to take Jesus Christ into your heart and accept him as your savior. And even though, and I always fought with that because even though I wanted it, I was like, Jesus, I want you in my heart. I was like, but I don't want to go through it with this group of people, right? So when I left home at a very early, young age, I was 15 and, 15 and a half. So I then took it upon myself to start learning and reading all about the different religions of the world. We're talking about, I wanted to know, okay, Jehovah Witnesses, why do they come knocking on people's doors? What's that about? Okay, Hinduism, what's this about? Oh, Wicca. Ooh, this is really interesting. All the witches and the wizards and the warlocks. Awesome. And I knew because of my connection to my dad and him being Mexican and Catholic himself and seeing how, I don't want to say complicated, that's not the word, but how deep Catholicism goes. I knew that was not going to be like an easy study. It was going to take me the longest. So I left Catholicism for last. So I actually ended up getting baptized Catholic at the age of 33. And it's like I went into this group and I studied for just over 2 years, compared to like if you were to go into a Christian church and 2 weeks later, you could be like, yeah, I want to be baptized. Boom, they dunk you into a tub, into a pool, you're good to go.
Yeah.
No, like my it's called the RICA program in Catholicism, where they just teach you everything, what it's about, how you should be feeling, and it was never of like what's expected of you. So I embraced that, into my life. Do I go every Sunday? No, I don't. Do I pray the rosary? Yes, I do.
Interesting.
Why? Because when I'm praying it, it's a meditative state that I go into.
Okay.
It's a trance.
Okay.
And I'm able to uplift my frequency to a higher level. On my right side of my body, my entire side is blasted with the Virgin Mary. That was a 12-hour piece tattoo.
That must have hurt.
They say it's the most painful
Yeah, the
part
ribs.
of the
Oh
body.
my goodness.
And I went in there and I had the rosary in my hand as he's doing his work, and I just went into a trance. My artist then tells me that these big burly, biker dudes would come in and they'd be like, holy crap, like, is she on something? Does she smoke? Is she drunk? Like, and he was, no, she's in a trance. She's praying her rosary. Like, what hour is she in? No, this is hour number 5,
Wow.
So that's why I practice the rosary.
Okay.
I know that was a long answer.
Oh no,
but
that was good.
I just feel that it's been manipulated so much and we've lost so much of it. My advice to people is just know that there's a higher power. Find what that is. No matter what religion. I've got news for everyone. You do good in life, and if you're in life living a humble life and having an attitude of servitude and spreading the love of God and the word of God, doesn't matter what you practice, we're all going to get to the same road, which is that higher level of the spiritual realm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say that happens to everyone when they do the rosary, but like maybe they're not aware that they're kind of going into a state of like trance or vibrating higher?
Yes, I have the majority of the people that that practice the rosary or are reciting it. I see that trance, and it looks like musical notes going from one shoulder to the other, and it's just this beautiful rotation that I'm able to see. If someone is just saying it to saying it, I don't see it.
Wow.
Do you think there's different forms of meditation?
Yes, most
Okay.
definitely. There's going to the beach is a form of meditation. You going into the woods and disconnecting from all that. That's meditation. That's very grounding for you. listening to Metallica is
Playing music. Yeah.
is a form of meditation. So yes, they're different. Exercising, going out for a run, or just sitting there and being silent, listening to your breath, connecting with your inner self.
Yeah.
That's super powerful, and it is a meditative state.
And then could I tell you my theory as far as like what our energy is? Because
Yes.
I know maybe you could give me a different perspective. Once again, this is the first time I've ever had anybody that's within the knowledge of this. So debunk it if you need to. If it sounds too dumb, like, bro, just
Go for
do
it.
something else. All right. So my theory is, as far as like what we are, it's we are energy. I do believe that we are a form of energy. The way that I see everything is that at one point I was you, at one point you were me. So we are recycled energy. So we aren't technically individual energy. We are technically just recycled energy at a different time. So the way that I see it is the way that I treat you is that one day you're treating me. So that's how I see everything evolving as far as like not only humans, but, you know, trees, earth,
All life.
everything that we kind of see around us. But that's my theory. That's how I view things as far as like the way that I want to believe.
Yes.
I'm not 100% because once again, I'm not religious. And I know my grandma was Catholic and then my mom was Christian. I know they're very devoted into their religion and everything. But for me, it just never really, I just never caught into their religion, you know? So I do get invited to a Catholic church because I do like the, what are they called? The First Communion, and then what's after the First Communion? Confirmation pictures. And of course, I was baptized Catholic when I was a baby.
Okay. You're a cradle Catholic.
Yeah. And I've always been this way. I'm very quiet, but when it comes to things that I don't understand, I'm always asking questions. And sometimes these questions could kind of rub you the wrong way if it's a certain person.
Because they're full of ego.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. And this is probably why I never really got into certain religions because I, like right now, I'm like kind of not agreeing with you, but I'm not disagreeing with you either. I'm just asking questions and you're taking it in.
Yes.
Same thing. If a priest talks to me, I'm going to ask you questions. And they're going to be the most simple questions for me because, of course, I'm not devoted in the Catholic Church. And it sometimes could come off sarcastic, you know? So my thing is, how could I then, or how could anybody be assured of themselves as far as like where they're heading towards, as far as like when it comes to spirituality or when it comes to religion, or even my theory? Like, what do you think of my theory? Like, as far as like,
So I'm going to answer that one first. I love your theory.
Oh, thank you.
I love it. And it makes a whole lot of sense to me. I agree with it. I think it's beautiful. What a beautiful way to live life, thinking that I'm you and you are me, and you're living by the golden rule. Like, treat others how you want to be treated, right? So remember that a few minutes ago, we were talking about when spirit decides to come back here because there's lessons to be learned. It mixes in with what you were saying. You know, at some point we come back in and we experience that. So yes, I applaud you for that. Keep going.
Okay.
And then as far as what can I tell others that are on that journey, here's the thing. If it feels right to you and for you, keep doing it. If it brings peace and happiness into your soul and your heart, keep doing it. If you're helping others in the process, keep doing it. Don't stop.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. Like I said, I've made a couple of priests very uncomfortable. I'm just like,
I think that's
I've
something
always
that,
been
like,
that way though.
turns
Yeah.
people off sometimes from certain religions is when they have these questions and there's an unwillingness to answer or be open to them.
Yes.
And it's not like you're saying, like, yeah, it can come off as almost mockery. It can come off almost as like, skepticism, but from the other perspective, it's just like trying to understand. It's like, I just want to know more. I want to have more knowledge.
Yes.
And when someone's refusing to give that to you or refusing to even acknowledge your questions, it can be it just turns you off from that religion or from the church or anything.
Yeah. You know, being on a quest or a journey to find a relationship or a connection to your higher power can be a very powerful one. So the student that I was talking about earlier that I am now working with does not believe, or okay, let me rephrase that, did not believe in God. Felt that, religion was just BS and everyone that practices is just a bunch of losers, and, was so into like, I can't even repeat the names of the bands because I'm not into that, doesn't resonate with my soul, but, would listen to music like murder,
Murder?
all that type of stuff, right? And so to be able to have that conversation, that open dialogue with him, and not pushing what I believe in down his throat, but just helping him open up his mind to the possibility of something different, and then perhaps experiencing it. I'm not saying, look, you're gonna go do this and that's it. You're a Catholic now and you got to stick to it. No, right? I just had the most, for me, as his spiritual guidance counselor, you could say, to see him on his journey where he's now having conversations with God. And yet he yet has not put foot in a church.
Interesting.
Okay. And he comes from a very Catholic family, right? But he's having conversations with God, someone who didn't believe in him. He's now having that dialogue with God. And God, in his own way, is having that dialogue back with him. And I see the positive changes in this man's life that are just so amazing. And that right there just,
That's
makes
awesome.
it all worth it.
That's really good. My next question.
He's like, moving on.
I have a lot of questions. No, you could go. Every time she says something, I'm like, oh, that's my next question. Go for it.
I just
Sorry.
wanted to circle back to you saying, like when you pass, your spirit either will be earthbound or you go off into the light, and there are different levels. So what can you do in your life that would let you, when you pass, get into a higher level? Is that just aligning yourself with like happiness and fulfilling things that fulfill you?
Yes, exactly. Living, being true to yourself, speaking your truth, being the defender of not only your life, but the defender of others, justice, equality, and then just being that example of goodness. And always coming into a situation with the heart of servitude. Like, I'm here to help you. How can I help you? And always thinking of the other person's needs before your needs. Now, with that being said, let me back that up a little bit. I always use this analogy with my clients when they're struggling with something. I said, think of yourself in the airplane when the stewardess is, doing her presentation of the exits are to the right, to the left, behind me, follow the lights on the bottom. And then if that oxygen mask drops, right, I always say, okay, if you're traveling, let's say with 2 younger children, right, and those masks just dropped, what are you going to do? What's your first thing to do?
Help yourself first, I would say.
Exactly. Do you know how many people say, well, I'm going to put it on the first kid and then the next kid, but if they're freaking out and their arms are wailing everywhere, guess what? You just killed them and yourself. Right?
Yeah.
But if you put that oxygen mask on you first, you're good, you're now breathing, they can, at some point they're going to pass out, you can put it on them and you guys are all safe.
Yeah.
So even though you're living a life of servitude and being there for others, you also need to respect yourself, love yourself, put yourself first.
No, I get that, definitely. And that's where the outgrowing people comes from too.
Yes.
And then, of course, not just outgrowing your friends, but unfortunately, outgrowing your family members, not your whole family. I would always say that there's a contract between when it comes to family. It's just blood related. So it is what it is. Certain times family members just don't understand. They're very in their own little realm. And of course you want to keep distance, but not too far.
Right.
Where they could still feel like you're there, but they have to understand that distance is for both benefit.
Exactly. It's necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And here's the thing with family. Your family members, you guys are in the same soul pod.
Okay.
Think of it as a pod. And because you're blood related, that automatically you're in the same soul pod.
Okay.
Sometimes, and also, so it doesn't matter like how far you go or whatever, you're still going to bump into them at some point again and have that,
of
you know
course.
what I mean? Here in the physical realm and also in the spiritual realm. Okay. And then you have people that perhaps are not blood related, like maybe a partner that you have spent many, many years with, over 20 years. And then there's that growth, right? And you have to go your separate ways. Well, guess what? Because of the time that was put in, that person is also now a part of your soul pod. Maybe a little, further out, but still stay within that.
Okay.
Within
That's
that pod.
interesting. I'm learning a lot. So many questions.
Yeah, that's going back to like family and blood. So even talking about trauma, like ancestral trauma, because I've read things where trauma can be carried down through generations. So things that happen to like your great grandparents, and then you're the one who like breaks the cycle by doing different things. Is that carried through? Like that's carried through like spiritual stuff? Like, is that something that does actually exist, like ancestral trauma and stuff that gets passed down through family?
Yes, that does exist. And it goes back to, and I'm going to bring, a little bit of scripture into this where it says like, if you're doing bad and if you're sinning, it's like your children and the children of your children are going to feel
Yeah.
right, or experience certain things. It goes back to that. That is something that is very real. But here's the thing. We all have the power to break it and not give it power. Curses. We can all break that. Again, you need a higher power. You need to live your life a certain way.
Yeah.
But you could break that.
Yeah, for
Not
sure.
a problem.
I think what a lot of people are kind of scared of, as far as like what she was kind of speaking about, is also accountability to do the work, to break that. Because a lot of people just they get contempt on the day to day, and they see the same struggles that they're currently going at or currently living, and then they in their heads they envision their past being the same, but it became a normality where it's just now. It is what it is in their heads, and I'm not going to change it.
Right.
Of course, I'm coming in from Mexico, so I had to leave my family. So my parents came here when they were in their early 20s, and I was going to turn 3. Luckily, one of my aunts did have a visa, so when I was maybe 11 or 12, so I did get to meet at least one of the family members from Mexico because she was able to get a work visa. And I got to meet her daughters and everything. But so the one thing that she did tell me as far as like how I kind of work around when I'm tired, exhausted, depressed, and anxious, or anything that comes to negativity, because she was noticing how hard life is here. It's not what people imagine it to be.
Right.
When you're an immigrant, you don't have a social security number, you don't have a license. It's really hard. And of course, you don't know the culture or you don't know the language. So the one thing that she told me and that always stuck in my head, she said, you need to be better than your dad. You can't say that you were brought here to be common. You cannot be like him. I'm not saying that my dad's a bad person or anything negative, but she was just saying you left your family. So without knowing or without your acknowledgement, you had already sacrificed before sacrificing. Right. So make that sacrifice worth it. So that had stuck in my head, and it's still in my head till this moment, that we're talking about family and growth and all that stuff. That kind of just popped in my head right now when you guys were talking about, the past traumas and all that stuff. So for me, it's more of, I know where my dad's family's coming from, which is a very humbled beginnings. I'm talking about humble beginnings. Yeah. And they have their traumas within their family, which I could see it now because now I'm older and I could acknowledge it, and I could actually, now that they're coming and visiting now because now they're older, now they have work visas, it's almost like it had to have happened the way that it happened, where we had to have left Mexico to come here. And certain things that I kind of now notice might have been passed down through me if I would have stayed there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely see that.
But yeah, I was kind of just
Yeah.
having that thought in my head when you guys were talking about family.
And was it your Thea?
Yeah.
Okay. So what a wise woman. What a powerful statement. You know, such great advice. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm very close, and I would honestly say I'm very close to females.
Okay.
Yeah, so my mom and my aunts, very, very close to them.
Okay.
So when it comes to dating advice, business advice, I normally seek older women for some reason.
Okay.
Now, they're kind of the opposite when it comes to who should I be getting advice from. They always say either a man or an older woman. They always tell me stay away from the younger girls
Yeah.
because they're lost in the sauce.
Yeah. I agree. Right.
So when I speak to, of course, now that I'm dating currently, I speak the way that they speak. And unfortunately, it's not common. So I get more L's than wins because I'm literally speaking off of my culture, or if not, what they taught me. Because I don't even know what my culture is, to be honest with you. I know how to speak Spanish. I know the Mexican traditions, you know, like even Cinco de Mayo is not even Mexican culture.
Right.
It's American. But as far as like what my town, the festivals, I have no idea. I have no idea what they do for Christmas. You know, I don't know what their events are. So could I say I know Mexican culture? I know Mexican American culture, but I don't know my own culture.
Do you want to know it?
Yeah, at some point whenever they give me a green card, when I'll go back.
Right.
You won't see me again. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from as far as like my biggest influence have always been older women.
Yeah.
And currently now, like when it came to business, I don't know if you know her, Rima,
Yes.
and I always reference her a lot on this podcast and my other podcasts because she was always the type of person that acknowledged my talent before I even saw my talent.
Beautiful.
So from there, I saw the amount of trust that I could give her. So that's what I'm saying. Like she was the type of person that would give me the upper hand without even asking for something in return.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's kind of where, I don't know if you could relate to maybe something where you connect it spiritually somehow.
I don't know.
Maybe the rocks or the stars or something.
You know what? Only thing I can say to that, as far as your culture, and I get it, the whole demographic part of it, and not being able to do certain things. You can do them here. Go within yourself. You know what I mean? Have the ancestors, if you're open to, show you or give you different snippets. Do you dream?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you recall your dreams?
Yes.
Perfect. Have you ever done dream journaling?
No.
Okay. Get a journal, get a pen, put it right next to your nightstand.
Okay.
And summon your ancestors to, through your dreams, speak to you and show you certain things. Write them down. And then perhaps later on in the future, when you're able to, compare your dreams to what you're going to go experience.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. That's
I hope that helps.
good. No, that's a good thought
Yeah.
process.
I
Yeah.
used to, for a little bit, I kept a dream journal. I would have like crazy dreams though. It's like the most ridiculous thing. Like the other day I had a dream that I was helping someone give birth, which was really,
It's very interesting.
Like in the dream, I was actually really scared.
I'm interested now.
But it was
Tell me
just
more.
weird because my little sister, she's pregnant right now. So I was like, what does that mean? I didn't like even want to think about it because it, like in my dream, I didn't have a like good feeling. Like I was scared in my dream.
Okay.
But I don't know if that was just because you know, like when you wake up, your dream kind of starts to fade, and you know, the longer you're awake, it's like the less you remember.
Right.
So I don't know if that fear was coming from like I'm helping someone give birth, and I don't even know what I'm doing here, or if it was like literally like there's something wrong happening. So I don't recall like why that negative, like I had that negative feeling. But it's just like I don't know, dreams kind of can be very intense, and they freak me out.
Yeah. Now, have you noticed in the past, Ariana, have your dreams been prolific? Like, do they come true? Is there a certain attachment to?
No, I wouldn't say. I've had like recurring dreams. Like there's one recurring dream that I've had, or used to have frequently, where I would be saving like dead animal, like baby animals. Like I would be trying to save them, but I wouldn't. Like they would end up dying anyway, and I would like do everything I could to save them. Like there was like puppies in a pool, and I was trying to like save them, and I couldn't like save them, and every puppy that I pulled out was like dead. And then there's like another dream with like other baby animals, and I'm like, what are these dreams? Like, why do I have these dreams?
I'm curious.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
So the reoccurring usually happens when your higher self is trying to get your attention to do something. You know what I mean? Those are the reoccurring ones. The dream, as far as you helping give birth, or you were helping someone give birth or deliver the baby. Let me explain something. We have what's called a silver cord. Okay. We all have it. And the silver cord literally comes out of the like navel, the belly button area. And it is believed that at night when we dream, we have outer body experiences. And this silver cord is what brings you back into your body when you're done dreaming. So have you ever experienced like you get a full night, 8 hours of sleep, but you'll wake up and you're still just dog tired?
It's like every day.
Okay. It's because you're in a different realm doing different things.
Man, I need to calm down.
Helping people.
I'm tired.
You know? Saving people.
That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's super important to keep that silver cord strong so that when you do need to come back, if you ever get the feeling like you're laying in bed and you jump, you jerk, and that wakes you up, that means your silver cord is a bit weak. You're crash landing back into your body. You need to strengthen that. Okay?
That's interesting.
I've had so like sleep paralysis. I've experienced sleep paralysis. I used to experience it a lot.
Okay.
And there was one time, and I've told people this before because it's such a weird experience that I had, where I had sleep paralysis, and then I felt myself like floating up, and this is gonna sound really weird, but I started to hear voices in my head. You know, like I started to hear. Go
ahead.
Get out.
No, it wasn't like that. It was like they were basically like I was scared, and because I could feel myself floating, but I knew it wasn't like my body. Like my body was still below me, and I was like, no, I don't want to go. But I was like, in my head, I was saying like, I don't want to go. And these voices in my head were like, no, it's okay. Like, it's okay. You're going to be safe. We're not going to hurt you. You're fine. And I was like very adamant. I was like, no. Like, I don't want to go.
Right.
And so then they're like, okay, fine. And then I went back down. And that's when I like woke up.
Okay. And was this a dream or sleep paralysis?
It was sleep paralysis.
Okay.
So it was sleep paralysis first, and then I felt myself floating.
Okay. Okay. What you were, again, you floated out. That silver cord is what had you up in that free floating area. And then it sounds like perhaps your spiritual guides, your master guides. Do you guys know about guides?
Just from the movie Coco. That's all.
By the way, did you hear Mama Coco just passed away?
Yeah.
Oh,
Wasn't it last week?
This week or last
I
week
think
or early this week?
I did see the announcement. It's crazy.
Okay, so I'll come back to guides, but it sounds like your guides were working with you because of the sleep paralysis. You communicated with them, you spoke to them, you could hear them, and then they assisted you, to go back in. And sleep paralysis, it's a negative thing. I call it a psychic attack because you're there and you're not in control of your body. You're being suppressed. Sometimes you feel this heaviness. Yeah. Sometimes you're trying to talk and all you get is, and you can't, right? So you're under attack.
Yeah.
So that's what it sounds like what happened to you. Okay, so are we going into spiritual guides?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about guides. So when you are born, you are assigned a master guide. Okay. That master guide is going to stay with you throughout your entire lifespan and will be there when you cross over into the afterlife. Alrighty. Then we have what's called transitional guides. And depending on what chapter you're in your life or what you're going through, these guides come in and out of your life. but the master guide is always there. So I encourage everyone to try to find out and meet their master guide. Who are their guides? What are they about? What are they here to teach you? And the way you do that is meditation. You want to start with meditation. And then at some point have someone who's experienced and has the knowledge to take you through a guided meditation so that you're able to meet them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I'm learning a lot. Like I say, I ask these questions because I do ask the same common questions, like I said, to people that are religious, but they always go off of not what they think or what their opinion or another perspective. They always go off of scripture, which for me has always been, I'm like, okay, I've heard that verse, already.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I kind of never really got certain answers. So it's really, it's amazing that you're here with us and you're actually answering. For me, they seem very, I would say dumbed down, or I don't even know how to explain it because they're just very generic questions, I guess. But I'm pretty sure someone out there is maybe thinking the same way that I am. Like we're like, oh, yeah, that might sound dumb, but maybe it's not.
No. Trust me, guys. There's a reason why I'm here, and we're sitting down and having this conversation. There is a reason why I walked into the office that day because I was not even supposed to be. I was in jeans and flip flops. You remember that? And you were there. It's because spirit and guides, it's something that they put together, and they're going to coordinate this and make it happen.
Do you think our lives is predestined then?
Yes and no. I kind of go back. Yeah.
Back and forth.
Yeah. Because I feel that we all write our own. It's like that movie Back to the Future. Oh, there's your pop culture for you. where she goes up to Doc when the train comes in. I think what was that?
The third.
Back to the third movie.
Yeah.
And she's like, Doc, there's nothing on the paper. Look. And he looks down at her and says, because you are the writer of your own future. You decide.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that was good, Silvia.
That was a really good one. You got this. You're not nervous no more.
No, not at all.
That's awesome. And I think I had another question, but kind of flew it out of my head once we're talking about something else.
But the guides, like spiritual guides, reminds me of like guardian angels in like certain religions, and like they talk about, like angels are watching you, angels like are looking over you. Would you say that's essentially they're kind of one and the same,
no.
like across religion? And
no. So your guardian angels and your angels are your celestial beings, and angels have never had a human experience.
Okay.
They've never been alive. So a lot of my clients will be like, oh, is my son my guardian angel? No. Will your son's spirit and essence be with you and help you throughout your journey as you continue living life here on earth without them? Yes. Are they going to be your guardian angel? No. Angels have not had a physical form. They've strictly been celestial beings. However, they do come down here, and when it's like major, like something needs to get done and right now, and a lot of power is needed, they're sent on a mission and they get it done.
Okay, so they're like the Marines.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right.
Navy SEALs of God.
Gotcha.
Yes.
All right, for sure. I could say that.
Yeah.
Can I circle back because we kind of touched on it? You said you can communicate with animals.
Yes.
Is that through like you were saying with spirits, like the vibration, like you're able to communicate via vibration?
Via vibration. Sometimes an animal, and this is going to be like the animal that the owner, or that its human, I don't want to say owner, that its human has really talked to them, and they've been able, like parrots pick up language, they're able to talk to me, right? Yeah. And then some animals choose, again, to have me see a memory of my own, so that I can get to talk about it. And then their human listen, oh yeah, that happened to, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Or using symbols.
Is that for every animal though? Or is that certain animals?
Is your question, does every animal, are they able to communicate?
Yes.
Yes, every animal is able to communicate. Does every animal want to communicate? No.
Okay, may I ask a question that might sound kind of dumb too? Have you ever gone to the zoo? I
just
told you.
I was just going to talk about killer whales. Shamu. Okay, but yes, I've been to the zoo.
Similar, that question was coming up.
Go for it.
What do they say when you're at the zoo?
You know, some of them, the gorillas and the monkeys are super vocal, right? But they're just having a blast.
Oh,
right?
interesting.
Yeah. And then you have other animals like, what was one? That was just not, it was a lion.
Oh,
Was just not happy. Was just like, I want out of here.
Yeah.
You know, just like this dreadful.
they wanted to hunt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do they like they're able to pick out like that you can hear them? Like, do they know that you're able to hear them?
If I try to make contact,
Okay.
like if I'm, you know how usually in the lion habitat there's this thick glass, right? And they can walk up right to the glass, and so lion walked up to it and through the glass, I was like, hey, aren't you a beautiful, majestic creature? Like, God made you so beautiful. And so once I do that and I tap into the energy, if they answer back yes, if not, then no. I'll share a story about SeaWorld and the killer whales. There was
Documentary.
Yeah. And when I was younger, I used to really favor SeaWorld a lot. And it wasn't until one day I was walking into the show. So I was really early because I wanted to get a good seat, blah, blah, blah. And one of the orcas was swimming around. And I went to just stand where that glass, right, area is. And I remember Jonathan was super small. I mean, he was less than a year old. And I put my hand, the orca was just doing like laps. Put my hand up to the glass and just tried to communicate. The orca came to me, stopped, and started communication. And let me tell you, I broke down in tears. Like, oh my God, what are we doing? What am I doing here? Like, why are we participating in this? This is God's creature that needs to be on the other side. To have this orca tell me, I can hear my pod just on the other side. My family is just over there, and I can't get to them. Can you help me? And me being so... Gosh, I'm gonna cry. Heck, I wish I could.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how. I think I was like 16 and a half or something at this point, but that stuck with me. And needless to say, I stopped going to SeaWorld, but.
Yeah, their intelligence, as far as like when it comes to dolphins and orcas, very, very high frequency. Of course, I ask common questions because I just feel like like I said, I've always been this way since I was little. I just very very quiet. But when I have a question, I'll ask it no matter how simple it might sound. So of course, I got into the whole SeaWorld and the intelligence of dolphins. And I believe that dolphins, their brains are, as far as like their intelligence, kind of a smarter creature than they technically, their echolocation is so advanced that we don't even understand how they do it. The only difference between those that are like mammals that are living in the sea and the mammals that are technically like us humans, we control our environment, like we can manipulate it. They can't. So that's the only difference between a mammal that's like a orca or a dolphin compared to us. We manipulate. They can't. They have their languages, they have their cultures, but for whatever reason, because we think that we can't see their facial expressions or we can't understand their language, that they don't have a language or they don't have the feelings that they have.
Oh, they do. Let me tell you. May I ask a question?
Yes.
Talk to me, Ariana. What are you feeling right now? Because I'm feeling your energy and I'm seeing you across the table.
Yeah. No, it just made me sad. The orca, like, I can't.
Talk through it. You're good. This is a safe place.
I don't know, like just thinking about animals.
Yeah.
And what we do to them.
Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah, us as humans, we definitely have changed our environment for the good, but also we've manipulated a lot for the bad for our own benefit
and have hurt so many and damaged so much
environments, you know, just for our benefit, just so that we could feel comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, that's all it really is. And I definitely understand the logistics as far as like, you know, what we do to animals and stuff. I know they are here for a reason. It wasn't until she came into the group where I started thinking about how much meat I ate. Because once again, I like to ask questions that I don't really understand. She came in, I remember when I first started talking to her, when I was training her to do the edits, she would always tell me she was a vegan or not a vegetarian, and I would ask her questions, and I was always towards like the animals and, you know, how we kind of go and kill them and all that stuff. For me, Hispanic oriented, you know, we eat meat, you know, that's what it is. But I didn't really understand how much meat I ate until I started talking to her. And from there, I started to acknowledge that I don't really eat meat. It was just more of a thought process that it's just, that's what we do. So me coming in from a humble beginning, we didn't have the money to even go to McDonald's. Or, you know, I didn't really get the whole Cars Jr., like, oh, I want a number 5 and did it. I literally got that when I was a little older. But now it's more of like, now that she came into the group, I started thinking like, how much meat do I really eat? And honestly, it's not a lot, but it's just that thought that I never had.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you were to ask me if I eat meat on a daily, it's a no. I usually eat eggs. Like my favorite food is eggs.
Eggs. Okay.
I have no idea why. My mom says that she would always eat eggs when she was pregnant. Now she can't eat eggs. It's my fault. Yeah. But yeah, it's as far as like, you know, those common questions like that I didn't understand for myself. And then of course, reasons for her as well. It's just, you know, like everyone has a different perspective. So it's always good to have someone that maybe didn't, or the thought process that she has in her head when it comes to animal cruelty or the reasons why she doesn't eat meat or what the reasons why she doesn't do certain things because of their environment. It's just, those are the things that I question myself after a while, but it's not until I meet somebody that is in that position that made that conscious, you know, that conscious thought in their head. Because in my head, it wasn't conscious. It was just, it was what it is because my, you know, upbringing.
Gotcha. I've tried numerous amount of times to live a vegan life, right? Because, here I am firsthand being able to speak to these animals. And it wasn't until I was older, I want to say my late 20s, where in one of the times that I was attempting to do it, I think I was maybe 3.5 months in, close to the 4-month mark, and I got super sick. And this was the pattern. Like I would start it, and then I would get so sick I couldn't, and I would stop, and it was so frustrating. And it wasn't until I went into the doctor that last time, and he said, "Sylvia, what are you doing? You're O positive blood. You can't be vegan. You know, you have that old blood, O positive." You have that excessive acid in your stomach that needs to break down that animal meat, right? And the way he educated me and just taught me, now mind you, I was eating meat every day, twice a day if I could, right? But once I had this discussion and I understood, okay, it's something I'm not going to be able to do fully 100%, but I am going to make changes. Where like only eat meat maybe twice a week compared to twice a day. You know what I mean? And that just made a whole world of a difference. So I get it. Yeah.
I think part of my reason going into, I'm not vegan anymore, but I'm more conscious about like how often I eat meat. I'm also O positive blood.
Okay.
And I did actually for a while, I was reading about like diet based off of blood type because like your blood type does affect like how you can break down certain foods.
Yes.
But for me, it was more so, I don't know, just the thought of like the consuming animals that are just like not happy. And like, how does that affect the meat? And like, just the thought of like eating it just like it made me sick. Like I couldn't even like eat it. And so even like sometimes now if I eat meat, I still like, I feel sick just like thinking about like the
process,
like the life
journey,
that they lived, I guess. And it's like, how does like, what am I putting into my body when it comes to that? Like that energy, does it go into that me, and then I'm consuming it, and now it's in me, and because I have read things where it's like energy, like we were talking about, energy is like constant. It's always there. And so if that goes into like what you're eating, that you then in turn are experiencing those things.
You are. And that's something that I also learned. And so what I started to do and practicing was, saying a prayer over the food, right? And just putting it out there that I hope that it was, and this is going to sound so stupid, but humanely. When you take a life, how could it be humanely? But for it to be done that way, and thanking the animal's essence and spirit, because now it was going to nourish me.
Yeah.
And I always put hands over it, and that, has definitely helped. And, if that animal was freaking out because it knew it was about to be killed, that energy gets imprinted into the meat, like you were saying. And then we sit there and we eat it. So now what do we have in us? That nervous, negative energy. We just made a part of our body, right? So I just made it a point to just cleanse all that and pray for the animal's spirit so that I could continue, nourishing my body.
She's a cat person. I'm a dog person.
Okay.
Is there any like definition or term of why that is? Like of certain people, like I know people are like, I'm a dog person.
Like dogs too,
yeah, but you've always I've always hear you about cats.
I there's like a lot of stray cats in my apartment complex. So like one day there's a kitten that was just like sick, and so I took her in, and the plan wasn't to keep her, but obviously like after I had her for like an hour, I was like, oh, she's mine now.
Yeah.
But so like I had her, and then like a few months later, my dad told me there's like another like kitten that he had seen in the street, and he's like, oh, if you don't get it, it's probably gonna be dead in like a day.
There you go, rushing off.
The guilt, I was guilt tripped. So then I went and I got her. But so now I have the 2 cats.
Okay.
But yeah, it's funny that you mentioned even like people who like talk to their animals and stuff, because I talk to my cats all day.
Awesome.
And one of my cats, she's a little more vocal. Like she's constantly just like yelling at me. And so like I'll sit there and like talk to her, and like I feel like we have a conversation, and sometimes I feel like I know what she wants, and other times I don't.
Okay.
But I think it's just like, I feel like if she were to like communicate with someone, like she would probably have like a whole list. She can have like a very like fluent conversation, like very eloquent, because she's just like, sometimes I feel like she actually says words too.
Oh,
like
I love it.
Just like, where'd you learn that?
Right. Well, here's the energy behind the whole cat and dog things. Cats are very independent, mystical creatures. They also aren't afraid to fight evil entities and or energies. So what was that one movie where the cat... was
The Mummy? Yeah, that was...
Okay, pop culture.
Yeah, right?
Where the cat comes in and gets... like that, right? And so people that are needing that in their life, cat will come into your life for that. Dogs are very free-spirited, very therapeutic. They read off of your guys' energy, and it's like a beautiful tango dance between their human and dog. Compared to cats are very independent. It's like, you had a bad day, we'll get over it, suck it up, tomorrow's a new day. Right? So, I mean, as far as that's my knowledge as far as dog and cat people.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I was just wondering.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, because I know she always talks about her cats.
Yeah.
And I know I want a dog, but of course the time that I don't have when it comes to free time, I grew up with dogs, so I know the amount of attention that they need.
Yes.
It's a lot, and they could get depressed, and that's something that it's conscious in my head. And I see a lot of people that have pets, and I'm like, you work just as much as I do, like, and you don't have a significant other, or you don't have like a son or a daughter that is taking care, or even like putting attention. Like, how is it consciously, or how did you even want to have something in your house just so that you could say you have it?
Right.
But yeah, it's just, this is like one of those things. And now, like, now that I'm getting older, like I said, I'm dating now and I'm thinking about my future. I might buy a house next year. And
Sweet.
so
Who's going to be your realtor?
I have no idea. I'm going to do a lottery. I'm literally going to do a lottery. I get that question all day, every day.
I love it.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's the say. I love that. The lottery. Make sure my name is in there. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
I'm just going to do a lottery. Yeah. So of course now I'm thinking about, I want a dog, but it's just the want and need is too different right now.
Right. I hear you. And that's
because I'm
very
like, I'm
respectful.
always working.
Yeah.
You see me at the office or if not
Yes.
events. And like I said, I grew up with dogs and it's one of those things like I've always understood dogs. Like it's just one of the, like I click right away. Like, okay, I know what you want before you even want it. And then that's it. I know how to go through the process. They're very simple creatures. For me, they're very simple.
Right.
They're not confusing. I know they have different personalities, but for me, they're just simple.
Yeah.
So that's why I've always enjoyed their company.
Sweet. What do you have a favorite breed?
Right now, I'm probably going to go after a golden retriever or golden doodle.
Nice.
Just because I need something that's just friendly off the bat.
Gotcha.
I don't need a lot of energy like a husky.
Okay,
you know, and it's
Escape
hot over here.
artists.
Yeah. I don't need anything like a poodle.
Right.
You know, I don't need a chihuahua. I grew up with chihuahuas. They're really loud.
Yeah.
You know, I need to sleep.
Yeah. None of the yappy breeds.
Yeah.
I have 3. I have a 110-pound pit bull.
Oh.
A blue nose, and then I have a 12-pound miniature schnauzer,
Nice.
Luna, and we named her Luna because she literally, depending on the cycle of the moon, that's how she behaves. She can turn into a little lunatic at the full moon. And then we have a little 10-pound Shih Tzu, you know. So those are the 3 that we have at home. I also have 2 turtles, and but I was going to ask you something. I had another question for you, actually.
Oh, I was going to ask you about personalities when it comes to animals.
Uh-huh.
I can't stand dumb animals. Is that a reason? Is there a reason for that?
I don't know.
Because, like I said, I understand dogs, and if I see a dumb dog, it's like a person. Like there's certain people that I can't stand for whatever. I've never hung out with you, maybe said hi once, but for whatever reason, I just don't like you off the bat. Same thing with animals. I see you, I'm like, bro, you're dumb. Like I can't be around you.
I think just the energy doesn't mix. You know what I mean? Just like it won't mix with everybody you meet. I think it's the same. You know, the same thing.
Okay.
Oh, I remember what I wanted to tell you. It wasn't a question, it was a statement. So when you do when you're ready to buy your home, when you do your lottery, I just want to say, I'm going to be the realtor that's going to be able to walk through the home and say if it's haunted or
Right?
not.
I'm going to need you regardless. I'm going to need you regardless. I was like, I heard something. What is that?
Which I actually haven't shared the last story on that.
Yes.
Should we go into
Yes,
that?
please.
Okay.
I know we're kind of elongating this podcast for those that are listening. Thank you so much for, just I am very in tune into the conversation. So I hope you guys are too. So don't mind the elongated podcast. This is technically our longest podcast that we've had.
Okay, awesome.
Which I don't mind. So if you don't mind, I don't want to rush you either.
No, I don't mind at all.
But yes, please tell us about your story.
Okay, so I obviously, as a realtor, we do open houses, and there was an agent that had a property, a listing, and the house just wasn't selling. And mind you, this was before the shift that's happening right now. At this point, homes were still selling and so forth. And this was a beautiful, beautiful home over in like the Quartz Hill area. And so I went ahead and said, hey, I'll go ahead and I need to do an open house this weekend. I'll host it for you. Great. First impression as I drive up to the house, it's big, beautiful, kind of looks like a miniature castle type of thing, right? Corner lot, very desirable. So my brain immediately starts to think, well, why isn't this selling? Like, what's up? Walk into the foyer of the home, and immediately this dreadful, angry, dark feeling just starts taking over. And the house is vacant, completely empty, right? And I start looking around, and as I gaze up to the balcony area, there's a little old lady it's her spirit, and she's yelling at the top of her lungs, get out. This is my house, get out. Right? So what had been happening up to that point is that everyone that was visiting this property was feeling the same thing I was feeling, and they're like, I'm not going to put an offer on this property. There's no way. Like, they don't know really what's happening, but they know that they're not in tune with that energy. I contact the realtor and I said, okay, look, this is what's going on. You have this situation. The house is haunted. Like, this is the energy that's coming off of it. If you want my help. At this point, he didn't know what I do. So I explained it to him, and I says, I can go ahead and help you take care of that. Once we do that, and if she does cooperate and go into the light, you will get this house in escrow and you will sell it. So he was a little skeptical, right? It took him about, I want to say 1 to 2 days to figure it out. And at this point, he just wants the property sold. So he's like, fine, do it. Go for it. So I go in there and I do what I do, and I make contact with her. And we just had, a discussion, this dialogue back and forth. Turns out she had passed away in the home. Now, he didn't tell me anything about this home, right? I came back to him and said, hey, this, and she's like this, and blah, blah, blah. And she's saying she died here. So that energy was there in the house. Long story short, I was able to convince her to go into the light and just reassure her that the next family that was going to purchase her home was going to love it and respect it. And sure enough, as soon as I was done with that process, I want to say within less than a week, he had an offer. Not only did he have an offer, I told him the amount of that the offer was going to come in at, and that it would sell for that amount. And that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
That's cool.
That is really cool.
As far as the process goes, when it came down to speaking to her, what exactly are you doing? Are you just kind of just like going through the house and then kind of just asking her questions, or is it like a sit down where you're like at a couch and it almost looks like this?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, there was absolutely not one piece of furniture in that home. So it was just me walking around the house. Like in the kitchen, she kept opening and closing the kitchen cupboards, so that was happening. The drawers, where you put your utensils would open up, and so there was activity. That was her frustration, and coming through that way. And it was just trying to understand her, where she was coming from. And then coming from a good place, because energy will immediately feel where I'm coming from as well. And if they don't trust me, forget about it. They'll disappear, and I won't cross into the light. And guess what? I'm going to be stuck here.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, but no, she understood. And I had families walk through those 2 days that I did the open house. And it was like, look, there's children here, and I'm having this conversation with her at the same time, trying to help the family that's walking through, showcasing the home, and it worked out. Yeah.
Okay.
It worked out.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's really good too for the agent, got to sell this house, got that escrow.
Yeah, you sure did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. As far as like anything that you would advise anybody that is maybe going through that same type of journey that you've gone through in the beginning, do you have any advice to close the podcast? And Ari, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask at this point too.
Yeah. Okay.
Or if you have any questions for us, that would be great, because we normally don't ask the guests to ask us any questions.
Right. No, I think I'm good. But how did you want me to wrap up?
Oh, if there's any type of advice that you may want to give to anybody that's going through that same journey that you might have gone through when you first started, as far as like when you first acknowledged.
Okay.
Like, is there a specific online course, or is there like they have to call a specific person, or even this is a question that I had in my head, because I do see that everything in the world now is it's built on capitalism, and I know people do tend to sell certain things, and then everyone's special, hyper individualism now, where they say I read hands, but or they read cards, but it's just so common now that anybody could order those cards on Amazon.
Right.
How would you go about and guiding someone out there that may be listening to kind of like seek the right knowledge, I would say?
Right. So the most important thing I can say is find someone who has walked the path and is continuing to walk the path and has the experience, right, to back them up. Because if you start tapping into certain things or you're not knowledgeable on it, you can open Pandora's box and it can get out of control really fast.
Okay.
So just, try to find a mentor and really ask yourself, is this the path that you want to walk in? Because it's a big responsibility. I have a lot of people that are like, oh my gosh, Silvia, I would do anything to have your gift and what you're able to do. And I always come back and I'm like, well, no, like really think about it. Wherever I go, Spirit is talking to me. Sometimes I don't my boundaries are not respected. Like in the middle of the night, I'll be woken up by Spirit that needs something. Right. And so it's a big responsibility that is on my shoulders. So just know that coming into it, find someone that can be a guide and a mentor to you and for you, someone that you trust, someone that it just feels right that you have that connection with, right? It's super important. And be true to yourself. And remember, we're all psychic. Each and every one of us is born with that ability. You can develop it. It may take time, but you can most definitely develop it and stay true to yourself.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Before we close,
yes.
You had said something about Danny.
Oh, yeah.
Is that Spirit still here?
No.
Left the building, Danny.
Danny, you took too long.
Got tired. All right. Thank you so much for doing this podcast with us. We enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I know.
Did you?
I did. I really enjoyed it. And I learned a lot.
Yeah, I learned a lot too. Awesome. Like I said, I'm always the one wanting to question certain things. And I just liked your openness as far as like, even though they kind of sounded silly sometimes, but still like, it's just one of those things. Like I like communicating. Like I said, I'm not a very talkative person, but when I do talk, I do have questions that I want answered. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't have those answers.
Right.
So thank you so much.
And I definitely thank you for, having this dialogue with me and trusting me to have it. And to your viewers, if anyone out there is dealing with like, perhaps like a haunting in their home or a poltergeist, get a hold of Irving and you can get a hold of me and I'll be more than happy to go out and assist and do what I do.
Sorry, one last question.
Yeah.
Halloween is coming up.
Yes.
Is it true that it's like a doorway or a Day of the Dead, like, the culture of Mexico?
Right. No. So Halloween, what happens is we're entering into the time of the year where the veil is the thinnest between the spiritual world and our physical world.
Okay.
So it's super easy for spirits to manifest during this time.
Is there a specific reason for it?
Because why it's the thinnest? Because of how the planets are aligned right now. So every year, right, Earth is doing that constant movement with the stars and the other planets. When it's in this particular position from like ending mid-September all the way to like beginning of January, it's just positioned to where the veil is the thinnest at that time.
Oh, okay.
Spirit can come through all year round, but this is like the easiest time for them to come out here, visit us, communicate with us. And then, we have All Souls Day and Dia de los Muertos that is coming up. And I highly urge everyone that if you have a loved one, a family member that has passed away, please, please, please do not let them experience the second death. The second death is the worst when you are in the afterlife and you don't have anyone here on earth that is thinking about you or remembers you, just like in the movie Coco, right? Remember them. Put an altar up for them. And if you don't have a picture of the person, put their name up there and just honor who that person was. And if anyone has any questions on how to do that or build an altar, I can also assist with that.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Welcome. Thank you so much once again. And thank you everybody for listening to the podcast. I'm excited to actually post this one. So hopefully by next week. So thank you so much.
Thank you.